Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Nguyen Hoang Linh. Nguyen is a lecturer at National Economics University in Vietnam. He obtained his PhD degree for management science from University of Lille, France. His research interests include disadvantaged customers. Today, we will discuss his research project on domestic urban migrants and their access to public services in Vietnam. It's a pleasure to have you on my show, Nguyen.
Thank you for having me.
Nguyen, you recently conducted a project on domestic migrants in Vietnam, which was funded by United Nations Development Program. Can you share what this project was about?
Sure, of course. Okay, the project actually a consulting project, right?
Okay.
It was funded by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP for short, right? UNDP has this project in Vietnam we call PAPI. It stands for Province Administrative Performance Index.
Okay.
They have this program annually, and it means to measure and rank how well each province performs in a variety of index,
Okay.
from corruption fighting to public service access. Right. So
Okay.
the project will conduct annually,
Mhm.
covering all provinces and bringing great insight of the administrative performance of the government.
Okay.
Now, however, the original data set, the report, did not capture a very important insight.
Mhm.
The non-registered migrants. Right? We
Okay.
don't really know who are they.
Okay.
We didn't understand the process surrounding access to public service among
Oh,
migrants, especially
oh,
those people. Right. So that's
yeah.
why we conducted this project.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. And Nguyen, why were you interested in this project?
Uh, Actually, the project was part of my institutions. I work
Okay.
in an institute called Institute for Sustainable Development,
Okay.
and we signed this contract with NDP to perform a large-scale interview with
Okay.
the non-registered migrants in Vietnam.
Okay.
And we one of the objectives is
Mm,
to understand the motivation, the barriers,
mm,
the
mm.
actors surrounding the migrant access to public service. And
Okay.
we do so by trying to probe into the life of migrants,
Mm.
especially the non-registered migrants,
Okay.
to understand why and what make them, use the public service, what
Okay.
kind of lives they led,
Okay.
what we could do to improve their life.
Okay. So can you give me some idea about these domestic migrants? I know you mentioned registered and non-registered, like how big this market is, this domestic migrants, just to give some little picture about
Uh,
this.
so um, to give you a clearer picture, like
Yeah.
in Vietnam, we have like 100 million people,
Okay. The
and
population.
then most people live in the two river delta. That's where
Okay.
the research was conducted,
Okay.
and the migrants are actually the people who move from the countryside to the city,
Okay. Okay.
or more specifically from the countryside, from the undeveloped area to the
Okay.
developing area.
Okay.
For example, like when you have like Samsung who opened a factory near the
Okay.
capital, then
Yeah.
they hire a lot of people. To give you
Okay.
a scale, a sense
Okay.
of scale, they have
Okay.
200,000 people working
Okay.
in the factory.
Okay.
And one of the figure that the public official in that
Yeah.
province
Yeah.
gave us
Yeah.
is that every day we have 23 women giving birth
Oh,
from the factory alone, right?
wow.
So there's actually a
Okay.
lot of people moving in and out,
Okay.
a lot of things going on around that area,
Yeah.
and it's getting
Yeah.
so big that a lot of province who
Hmm.
have a lot of migrants actually prosper
Okay.
because they bring in job, they bring in
Yeah.
a market, they spend
Okay.
money in
Yeah.
there, and so they kind of
Yeah.
develop the area.
Yeah.
Now, since the renovation policy in Vietnam in 1986,
Hmm.
now the country has developed quite well in terms of poverty reductions and
Hmm.
income. We
Okay.
actually now lower middle incomes in 2009. And considering that 30 years ago we are at war with American, it's actually pretty impressive, right? Now, migration bring economic and social development, right? But also issues, because when they come, they bring job, but at the same time, disruption to the local societies, right? But there is this problem with managing migrants is that we have a system we call the household registration system. In Vietnamese, it's called hộ khẩu. It's a very similar system to the Chinese hú khẩu, where you have to register your permanent address to the government, and it is actually based on where you born. Like if I am born in the capital, my hú khẩu will be in the capital, and it's very hard to move around because of policies. Right? So actually, it's not easy. So it led to situations where you cannot move, but you need to register for temporary resident, and then you stay temporary for the rest of your life. Right? It gets really complicated. To give you a very interesting, very actually atypical example is that if you want to buy a house, you need a permanent address. If you want a permanent address, you need a house. Right? So you're stuck in this vicious circle that you cannot really you break out by your own unless somebody just give you a house. Right? It's very complicated. One of the traditional way to get out of the system is to marry into someone's house. Right? Right? And for the public service, it is very complicated to manage a large flow of people moving around because it's actually very complicated, right? And there are concerns about the migrants' living conditions, about their role in societal and economic development, how well they live, and and there are this group of people we call the non-registered migrants, those that are not undercover by the registration system. If you are registered, then you are some sort of protected by the system. But if you're not registered, then that means if you are sick, you are not covered by the social security. You are not covered by the health insurance. You are not going to your kid are not going to school because you don't really have the right to register to the area because you are nobody in the area. You can't really rent a house. You can, but it's not possible for people who want like a decent housing without a registration. Right? So that's why we conducted research to actually probe into what their life are like. And it's get really complicated getting to know this migrant because it actually is very hard, right? And one of the conditions for the research for the project is to have a very overall insight between the two largest residential regions of the country, the two river deltas. So we have so the Vietnam country is like a S shape like this, and the north and south actually the two biggest region, and we actually concentrated around the two areas. The area actually also the region where most food are produced and most industrial activities are going on. Right. So we have a lot of people moving in and out of the two regions, and we need to know like what kind of of living conditions the migrants are in the two regions.
So when people come to from rural areas to these urban places obviously for employment opportunity and better life, so where do these people live, like these migrants, like how they house themselves?
The system is actually like this. So I'm going to tell you the general process that we uncover. So it used to be that the industrial park or the companies, they come to a province with tax benefit or with infrastructure setting up for them to set up the business. And then they start recruiting people. And most of the time, that were the local farmers who lost the land to the industrial park, or the young people who are stuck in the rural areas, who have no job, who have really or earn little money from the farming, right? So they actually come sign up for the job in industrial areas, and they work in the factories. When they come, they normally find a house. So the house actually very cheap, right? The house actually costs like a studio. Normally, they stay in a studio. They stay in what we call a rental, or in the report we refer to them as a hostel, right? So we have like 200 or 1,000 square meters, and we buy and we build some sort of studios. You can really call them a bungalow, but it's actually very ironic way that they're actually very in poor condition, right? So they live in a studio with nothing much, with one sitting toilet next to the bed, sometimes separated by a wall or a short wall, and they pay around in the local currency 800,000 to 1,400,000, so around 40 US dollar to 60 to 70 US dollar per month. And in some cases we have like 25 or $20 per month, and they are not really equipped with anything. They don't really have a lot of air conditioning, even though the weather is hot. They don't really have access to clean water all the time. Some of the area we interview, they often have like a power outage or water cut all the time. So not all, I will stress that not all of them are like that. But in a lot of conditions, they live in a very poor condition, actually.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. So I want to ask you about your project. Tell us how you conducted your project, like your design and your methodology.
So the project actually a qualitative design. So we conducted in-depth interviews and focus group, and the participants were recruited through a purposive sampling method. So because one of the main objectives was to locate the living conditions of the migrants, especially the non-registered one. We want to find them. It's not simple to find these people. They don't want to be found. They are not registered for a reason, right? So we actually interview both public officers and migrants in 9 provinces, 4 provinces in the north, 4 provinces in the south, and 1 control. In total, we have 67 public officials at different levels, 96 migrants, and 5 migrant households. So we accumulate around 1,000 hours, 250 hours something of recording hours, and we have a lot of data, a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, a lot of recordings to share. And in order to locate the non-registered migrants, we rely on the local government officers to approach the rental houses at the provinces. Right, and those are our contact point. So these public officials act at the contact point to gather the potential migrants. So because we want to locate the non-registered migrants, but the local official cannot locate the one that is not registered because of the obvious reason, right? So we ask them to find people who work in a certain job that are very likely to be non-registered. Right? Sometimes they are street vendors. Sometimes they are freelancer who stay in a job who I'm not sure if you have that in Canada, but sometimes on the street you would have like people sitting on the pavement waiting for someone to come and ask for a job. So we ask them to like invite those people come. We have payment for them. Sometimes we don't tell them that, but we rely on the government official at the local pay level to find those people. And then when they come and we interview them, right? After the interview, we don't have what we want. Sometimes we wait, and then we go around. Right? For example, for several times we have access to rental houses in the province. After like having interviewed several people who were introduced by the local governments, we go around. But actually, very complicated to locate those non-registered migrants. Now, there are several reasons when we conduct research. We found out some of the reasons why they are not very easy to find. Be found. Now, the first one is that they don't want to be found. Right? They don't register. One policeman told us that because the system is actually very efficient right now, so the chance of somebody not registered for a long time is very, very limited. Right. So if they stay non-registered for a long time, then likely they are a criminal in hiding.
I see. Okay.
Right. So unlikely. The second reason is that they don't really have a lot of access to public service, which they don't get approached by the public official anyway in the first place. Right. So if we rely on the public officials and at the local level, they will never found them. Right. So we have to go around. That explains why we need to go around. And thirdly, some of the migrants, they don't really know that they are not registered. Right? So they're not conscious of the registration themselves. For a lot of reasons. People who don't know that they have to register when they arrive at the place. For some, they register with the landlord, but the landlord does not register them on the system. So they stay hidden in the system, but they're actually very visible in real life, right? The registration process goes like this. So when you arrive in a locality, you need to bring your ID to the local police station to register. It's actually very simple, right? You announce the place and you tell them your ID. That's it. It's actually very simple. Or you give your ID, your copy to the landlord, and he must register, else he faces a fine. Now there are lots of instances where we ask the migrant, "Did you register?" I say, "I did," but for one time, he told us that he need to get some paperwork from the local police, and he went there to check. And he found that he was not registered because the landlord did not submit a paper. Right. So actually he is not registered. Right. And that prevent him from having the paper for a kid, which was necessary for the school. Actually very complicated.
Because I'm also thinking that some of these migrant workers, they're probably thinking, hey, I'm here for a short term. I will go back to my town, my village. So they don't see much motivation to go through all this paperwork.
Yeah. And that is a fourth group. Like there are actually some like non-registered migrants, but not for long. So a lot of young people who come from the mountain area to the city looking for a job. They stay at a French place, so they ask for place. And then he stayed there. He asked the landlord to stay until he had a job. He said, "Okay, no need for paper." And then he's go around staying there for a month until he had a job, and then he registered. So for that short moment, he has no protection. He has no access to the public service. He is actually invisible to the local government. So in the likelihood of something happen, he has no cover. Right? Even though he is legally binded to register.
So what are the benefits of being registered? I understand you can take your kids to school and perhaps access to a hospital and the medical assistance. What other benefits migrants have their get registration?
You need address to get a job.
Okay.
To sign a contract. They do a lot of things.
Okay.
You need that for the motorbike. If that the motorbike actually the main method of transport here.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to move from A to B, you need a motorbike because the public transportation is not very efficient here.
Okay.
And it actually very funny when we get to this point because the system actually allow the migrants to do all the work with a temporary register. But in reality, right, now I have to stress that even though the local authority they claim that there is no discriminations because there is no law specifically aimed toward the migrants. The reality that we found is they did get treated differently. Right? So because you come from somewhere else, a lot of instances where they need to register for their new motorbike, the local police they said no, you need to go back to the to your origin, to the hometown for the paperwork, which is a hassle for a lot of people, right? And some people, if they push hard enough, they actually can get the paperwork in the locality, but it does not happen very often, right? And then if they want to register for school, for kids, for healthcare, there are a problem related to the migrant flow because because there are a lot of people, right? So when the young they come to the industrial area for job, they bring husband, they bring wife, they bring the kid, in hoping that they can settle down in that area for a better life. Obviously. But a lot of instance they need to leave the kid at home because there isn't enough school for the kid. Because there are a lot of people coming in and the infrastructure cannot keep up with the growth of the population. And furthermore, because if they stay here, the school actually there are not a lot of available places, and those places are normally prioritized to the permanent residents over there, right? And so they don't really have a lot of places. And for people that bring kids, they need to send them to the private nursery, which increase the cost because it actually costs more. Or they need to leave them in the hometown with the grandparents. So they have a lot of societal problems, psychological problems when they're growing up without the parents. Actually, there are a lot of things going on in those areas.
So what did you learn from this in-depth study? It's a big study.
One of the things that actually surprised us is the access to public service is actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
Actually pretty good, actually. I was not a migrant in my own country. I did not know. I was a migrant to Europe, so I actually quite familiar with the system. And when it comes back to my home, it's actually pretty good. Actually, really. Most people register the paper actually very efficient if you know how it works. So it's online. So probably it's actually pretty good. Really, that surprised me. But the non-register and register situation is much more complex than we expected because of the things that I told you before, right? It's actually very complicated. It's not that work. One of the source of problem that we thought is the lack of control, the poor management from the local government, which again very complicated because it is not actually their fault. Right. So to give you a sense of the scale, a community here is like 100,000 people. Right. It's actually a city in North America, right, or in Europe. And they have like 4 or 5 people managing labor in that area, the migrant. And for that job, they do a lot of other tasks that are not related to migrant management. And the management of the migrant actually is separated into different categories. So the register are handled by the police.
Okay.
The one that control, that manage the labor, negotiate, handling paperwork with the enterprises, the local government, we call the Department of Labor. Right. And so these two are completely separated. The police know which area has a lot of people who are not registered. The police actually very insightful in this set. But the local government, the Department of Labor, they have no idea because the data was not shared. And every once in a while, you need to do tasks related to other jobs. So so management is very tough. And especially with the growing number of the migrants coming into the areas, it's going to be very, very, very tough, right? So the coordination between the local agencies are very, very poor, actually. Given that the scale of the job, actually, we think that they did pretty well, actually, but they did not have this policy, right? And for that reason, we think that the lack of specific policy toward migrants is actually a sign, some sort of sign of a negligence from the part of the government, when the government doesn't really recognize the importance of protecting the migrants, right? It is actually very, very complicated in the sense, right? And I think.
So what are some of the implications of this study?
We actually have a lot of implications, but not in the sense of the normal study, because it's a consulting project. So the result, the report, actually, it was sent to the National Assembly for reviewing and for the report. So we actually have a policy discussion going on right now regarding this very report. And the discussion was held in October, and we hope we have follow up from the area. And aside from that, and we think that we need to, from the result of our work, we need to recognize the role, the situations, and the rights of the migrants, and we need to have like specific policy aiming at those migrants, protect their rights. Right. The biggest problem we found with the migrants here is that it's not really the system that are against them. There are instances where the access are provided, but they were not willing to take it. They were not willing to take it for a lot of reasons. Say, a lot of migrants coming to the city hoping for a better life. But the salary actually is low. Is kind of low, right? The minimum wage, even though we have a lot of improvement in that area, is still low, right? So if you work only with the minimum salary, you're not going to make it in the city. So a lot of companies, they rely on this, and because the migrants, they demand it, they come there and work for the job that provide opportunity to work overtime, right? So they work overtime all the time. So they work like from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., sometimes to 8 p.m. non-stop. Sometimes with no meal, no break meal on during the overtime, and they have a lot of work. And the problem is, if you forbid them to do overtime, they will find another job, right? Because they are there for a short time and they want some money, right? And actually very, very complicated. So when they terminate their job and they come home, the only thing in their mind is to sleep, right? So no social life, no vote, no public no participation to the local government, no nothing. Some of the migrants, they told us that because the government doesn't specifically invite them, so they know the announcement, they just stay at home. Some just say that they are too tired to do anything. They don't want to do. To rest. That's it. So a lot of implication need to be done in this aspect to actively draw them out, not just calling for higher level of participation actually, but we need to actively calling them out. Even the local culture and the actual condition of the migrants, that we need to do something about that. And of course, there are also the problem of paying more money for the migrants, but that I don't think that would solve anything for the moment. I mean, like, they are there for the money, so good, more money is good.
So now that you have conducted this project, what are some of your post-project reflections?
We actually could have done a lot better job if we understand the nature of the vulnerability, right? Some theoretical implications that I personally found only after I run through all the data. The pacing of the project was a little bit rushed for me, perhaps because of the deadline of the National Assembly, or the report, or the funding source of our project sponsor. So the project actually was a little bit rushed. Like, we don't really have a lot of time delving into the data set more carefully before running through the deadline. Actually, that if I can do it again, I wish I could do a lot better. Like investigating the migrant for more information. A lot of instance they don't really want to talk to me, but after a while they start opening up, and then time's out, and then time's up, because we don't really have a lot of time working with migrants. And for some in some cases we need to because they work from 6 to 6. So when we arrive at the local area at 9 a.m., they haven't returned to work, right? So we need to wait for them until 6 p.m. Then they talk, right? So it's actually very, very complicated. So a lot of things we can do better to involve them more into our investigation, more like this we wish for them all the time, but then but for the moment we were pretty happy with how the project turned out.
So now reflecting on this, what is your advice for future research on this topic or on this project?
The project actually is in the process of publication. So we have several publications in line. Hoping we can put them out next year in 2025 for better visualization, better promotions of the project and of the issues. We could have better defined the vulnerability of the migrants. What is the state of the vulnerability? What is the process of the migrations? What is the nature of the living conditions? Some sort of those things. There are a lot of theoretical concepts that are actually very interesting to look at. For example, we have this thing we call the liminal spaces, right? Where we leave our current state, but we are not yet becoming another state. So the migrant are actually the same type of people who are stuck in liminal spaces, where they left the home hoping for a better life. They're being transformed in the destination, but actually they are stuck in that liminal spaces because they did not find their way out of the system. Right? So the literature actually suggests a lot of implication in that regard. what we can do, what we can push them, what kind of people are staying there, for example. Yeah. So if we can do it again, and if we are going to do it, well, improve our project, we will start at the better definition of vulnerability and the better definition of the migrants in the state.
Yeah.
Right? Because we start at the very simple starting point.
Yeah.
Register or non-register. So actually a very naive, way of looking at the situation.
Yeah.
Even the sponsor have to say that the original aim was to look at the non-registered migrants, but the outcomes did not say a black and white picture like that. It actually very like more nuanced into this registration things. So definitely, if we are going to do this, and we are doing this, we will start by having a much more holistic view of the migrants, and to understand them more, and to have a better approach to research of migrants.
Nice. So what's next for you, Nguyen?
What next for me? I'm working on the liminals, on the liminalities of the migrants right now.
Okay.
I hope to have something to share with you more in the future.
Nice. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I teach at the National Economic Universities. I also work on other projects for UNDP at the moment, and for other NGOs. We consult them for responsible businesses, and for sustainable development problems that we are working with the local governments and the NGOs at the very moment. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for your time, Nguyen, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.